This is a place.
This is the place?
This is a place. We want to talk about. This is a place.
Thank you for listening to This is a Place podcast. My name is Brandon.
My name is Nate.
And today we're joined by a man who we still wonder why we thought he was a nerd, Matt. Did you guys not pay attention to that whole runner in the book at all?
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Are you serious? He mentioned it like 5 times. He's like, there's the kid that... And he's like, I wonder why I thought he was a nerd. You guys... Come on. But he wasn't a nerd because they had the same hiking boots.
That's right. Okay, you say the hiking boots, and I remember the nerd.
That's the nerd. And we need to start with a different joke because you guys don't even...
I was going to say, welcome to This Place podcast. My name is Nate, and with me is a guy who forces me to read bad books and watch bad movies.
That's a pretty good one.
So, tortures me. And you know I don't like to read books. Read in general, and you made me read...
A whole book.
A whole book.
But
I don't think I read a whole book for, I don't know how long. Outside of it. Well, I should say a fiction. This is fiction, right?
This is a true story. Non-fiction.
Non-fiction book. That's all I usually read lately. But
We'll get into that, though.
You know the author Cormac McCarthy? He wrote The Road and No Country for Old Men. He's like this celebrated American author, and his books are really difficult to read, I think. And he writes like cowboy books, and the book I read right before this was about the 1850s and this group of people going across the U.S.-Mexico border and scalping Indians. And it was like the most brutal and difficult book I had ever read. And then I read this book right after, and it took me like an hour, and I just laughed at it, like, because the other book took me like almost a solid month to read consistently every day. It was, yeah.
It's a big one.
This book.
But they're kind of the same in intensity, right?
Yeah, they're...
They both won awards, right?
Yeah, for sure.
No.
Well, if anybody didn't know, we're joined by Matt today, common guest, and we are talking about Mill Hollow, which is a camp in the Uinta Mountains, a youth camp. And it's taken on different ownership over the years. Originally, I think it started in 1964. And was owned by Granite School District for quite a while.
Oh, so it did start with Granite.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I don't know if it actually started in 1964, but Granite owned it for at least when Matt and I were in elementary school and went to Mill Hollow.
Yeah.
That's who owned it. And now it's owned by the YMCA.
So if it was owned by Granite School District, was it Granite School District that would advertise it to their students?
Correct.
'Cause I didn't go to Granite School District, so
okay.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't know about it.
So it was like the
So you're in
last
Jordan?
2 weeks.
Was that Jordan?
Okay.
The last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, you'd get a form, and it was to go to camp. So I think it was 2 nights, 3 days.
Yeah, I think so.
Because you'd get there, yeah. And so yeah, something my brother, he's 6 years older than me, he did it. My sister's 3 years older than me, she did it. So by the time I got to 3rd grade, if my memory's right, this could be wrong, but the way I remember it is that when the teacher that was in charge at our school that took the kids, or she would go to the camp with the kids, she came to my 3rd grade class and only gave me a form. Again, this is my truth, my memory, it could be wrong. But she gave me the form, and they didn't, like, really give it out to the 3rd graders. It was more 3rd, 4th, and 5th, or 4th and 5th. But if you were 3rd going into 4th, you could go. So I feel like I was one of the only 3rd graders there. But also the 6th graders knew my sister. And so I was like the cool 3rd grader because they like felt protective of me because they liked my sister. So yeah, you would get it at the end of the like school year. And
But you had to be in supposedly 4th grade and older?
I think so.
Or
And
sorry,
what were the
yeah.
age groups you think?
Because I think I went in 4th grade. I think it
But
was
in
between
elementary school or the
elementary
Yeah,
school.
it was just a bunch of different elementary schools. Sorry, it's 3rd to 4th, 4th to 5th, 5th to 6th, I think.
Mhm.
I think.
That makes sense because I don't think it would be something you go to
6th
going
to
into
7th.
junior high.
Yeah, I don't think they would let you do that.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between something like people that know Camp Tracy, like Cup Country, and you go stay for a night or two up there. Is it similar to that? But obviously there's girls, which is going to be different than Boy Scout camp. But what's the difference?
Well, so when I went to Camp Tracy, I never stayed overnight. I feel we would go 1 week and we'd go multiple days, but you would come back.
Yeah.
And
Right.
go
Well, that
up
was
again.
Cup Country, right?
Right.
But I believe when you got to be like 11 or 12,
12.
that I don't think maybe in the summer. I know we did a couple winter camps up there that you would spend. They had cabins.
Yeah.
So when I was reading the book that we're going to talk about in a minute, my visuals were of Camp Tracy. That's where my mind.
Because you didn't realize this was a real place.
Well, I knew it was a real place.
Well, okay, right.
But I'd never been there before.
Yeah.
So I didn't know really what it was till you guys started talking about it. So.
Yeah.
But you would have boys and girls there, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so usually be with your school. Like I went with people from my school, my classes.
It'd be
So
your
people
class. In like
Like your class would be in the cabin?
they had a bunch of different cabins.
I think they usually put you in the same cabins as your classmates, but there were
Yeah.
people from other schools. There's a good chance you and I were there at the same time.
Probably.
And maybe we'll talk a little more about that. But
Yeah. Maybe we had the same counselor.
we could have been in the same cabin.
We could have.
I don't think we were, though.
Were you that boy I kissed?
Oh, good heavens.
No? Okay.
Anyway,
I was just kidding. That was something you would have remembered, so it wasn't you, obviously.
it wasn't me. No.
No, that was a different camp.
But anyway, so you went a couple times, 3 times. I went just once. So my memories are pretty foggy. And it wasn't until I did a lot of research that things started coming back to me. What do you remember from the camp, Matt?
Man, I loved it. I loved the camp. There was always popcorn at nights. I remember that. You'd go on hikes. At least my group did. So we went on hikes. There was one part where you'd get to this reservoir and they would like... Now that I look back, it was probably like, we don't want the kids to get wet. But when we were there, they were like, there are leeches in that reservoir. If you go in there, your blood will be sucked by leeches. And so I look back now and that probably wasn't true, but it was beautiful. It was really cool. You'd go to that reservoir one day for the hike. That was like the long hike. And then you'd go up along Skyline Ridge. And then you would come down past the lightning tree, which was a tree that got struck by lightning, and then down to the camp. There was also a shorter hike where you would go past these...
That one? The reservoir?
Yeah. And then there was a shorter hike where you'd go past the the sewage ponds.
The sewage ponds. I don't remember that.
Yeah, it looked like a swamp. And it was just covered in green. And every year we'd go there. It was the same teachers I had that go. Each year she would tell the same story, Miss Beatty, about this guy being blindfolded. His wife surprising him for his birthday, and he's blindfolded, and she's like, "Hold on, I gotta go get something," and he starts farting in the room and stinking it up, and then she takes the blindfold off and all his friends are there. So she would always tell that story when we were by those ponds. And then the split rock was always a big, like, you go hike and there's this giant split rock, which was really cool. And my first year I went, I raised my hand and asked, "Do you think this is the biggest rock in the world?" And somebody's response, another girl my age, she goes, "The earth is the biggest rock."
Good point.
Those are the things I remember, the big things.
Big part of the camp is education, outdoor education, and they want to teach you a lot about that. The worst memory and the most vivid memory I have is we had to dig through owl poop. Did you have to do that?
Dig through owl poop?
Yeah, so they took us to a place, and this very well could have been a Camp Tracy thing, but I'm pretty sure it was Mill Hollow. But we went on a hike, and it might have been just kind of a ways off from the camp. But we went to this building, and they had just this education section where we would dig through owl poop and try and find what they ate that day or whatever.
No.
I did that. I swear I did that. That's
crazy.
a real memory. It happened somewhere. It might not have been in Mill Hollow, but I'm pretty sure it was. What else do I remember? So I had a friend. He was a year older than me, and he'd gone to Mill Hollow, so he kind of was filling me in beforehand, what to expect. I just remember hearing about the bird blind and how he would have rock fights over there. And so in my mind, I really wanted to have a rock fight over there, but there's no chance. I was a very good boy. I would not have had a rock fight, but
The bird blinds, they were never, monitored. by.
That's the point. That's why
like,
you could have a
would
rock
go over
fight.
there, you could do whatever you want. Nobody's watching you. You're in a little building. You can get
We should have
trouble.
taken advantage of that. You could have gotten in big trouble. Big thing that I always remember too was the pot guts.
Yep.
Lots and lots of pot guts. Here's some pictures for you.
What is a pot gut? It's like a.
They're like
Like
little,
a prairie dog.
Yeah, those are
they're
fat.
kind of freaky things, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't remember a whole lot more. It was my first place that I learned how to play kick the can. So that was fun.
Oh, that's right. And you'd
In the
play
parking
that,
lot?
The parking lot in the area where the bus would drop you off. You'd play that.
Yep.
That was always fun.
So I remember, this might connect if we had the same counselor or not, that in the mornings, it seemed like we woke up way early.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because
It
we were
was still
exhausted.
dark outside, and it's in the summer.
But it's 7 o'clock. It's not that early.
I think it was earlier than that.
It probably was. Maybe like 6.
Because it was still dark outside.
Yeah. My counselor would wake us up banging on lockers or something, and then would turn on heavy metal music.
Mine was like rap. And this is weird, and you don't have to believe me, but I remember my dream I was having. And yeah, it was tennis. And then all of a sudden rap was on. And I was the rocker kid that was like, rap sucks. And I was like so offended by it. I don't remember. Okay. I remember 2 of the names of the guys I had. You only had 1.
I remember 2 names.
Okay.
I don't know if I remember my counselor's name.
Oh, I remember 3 names, but only 2 of them were my counselors.
Which names do you remember?
Okay, Sprocket was one of mine. Fun Guy, which everybody loved. And then Rufio was the other one. And I remember that because he would get his group to go, Rufio.
Rufio.
Found a picture of Fun Guy
Rufio.
Oh yeah.
on the Facebook page.
Man.
So the year I was there, so I think it was the same one. Fun Guy. Everybody loved. All the girls were in love with him. I was super jealous. He had braces. He was so cool. And then Bones,
No, I do not remember.
Chugs, and Behemoth. So this could have been the same year that I was there, because I just remembered him and Bones. I remember those 2 names, but I don't remember my counselor because
Those are terrible names.
he wasn't that cool.
Hold on. If you were a counselor, what would your name be? Nate?
My nickname still today is Fat Pete. For the last year, it's been Fat Jesus. When I had long hair, then I was back to Fat Pete.
What would be my name? What would be yours?
Squirrel Snatcher.
Squirrel Snatcher.
Yeah, that's my forest name.
I don't know what.
We're
mine would
about to
be.
come up with one.
All right. What would my name be?
Let's go, Brandon. I wear your hat like every day.
Yeah, you do.
I was at a pickleball tournament a few weeks ago, and I was wearing my Let's Go Brandon hat. And there was a guy named Brandon, really good player, playing, and his daughter was there. And she walks by, and because he's going to get ready to play in the tournament or the gold medal match, or maybe, anyways. She goes, "Yeah, let's go, Brandon." I'm like, "That a girl." That's right.
I don't remember any of those names. Bones?
I remember Bones.
Chugs?
I don't remember that one.
That...
Do you remember Tiny?
We'll get to that.
Yeah, we will get to that because there's a story behind that too.
A couple more things to share. Boondoggle was a big thing.
Oh yeah.
When I was researching, I don't remember that because I've never been able
that
to
was
do
a huge
boondoggle.
thing. You'd start it, and like your first year, you would just do the squares. But by my 3rd year, I knew how to do it like the spiral. So there was always boondoggle, and then you would you'd use a magnifying glass, and you would burn a piece of wood. Like you get around, like how would you describe that? It's like the size of a hockey puck.
Yeah.
Of a branch, like a thick branch.
Almost like a coaster.
Yeah, like a coaster, and you get magnifying glass, and you could do things on there.
Yeah.
And one year at Mill Hollow, this girl that was older than me asked me out, and so I did yes on one side. And
Love
no,
it, Mill Hollow.
No on the other side. I think I said yes, and then we never saw each other again that summer. She lived like pretty close.
So here's the sign.
Yep. We'd always have to go
the
clean
bird
up
blind?
trash around that sign. That
Do
was
we
like
have to clean the bathrooms too? I feel like I remember cleaning bathrooms.
I never cleaned bathrooms.
Only if you step on the grass.
There's the amphitheater.
Yep, I remember the amphitheater.
There's the room where you'd have like the popcorn.
The
and
piano.
Stuff.
I remember that was the first year I learned do 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 do.
There's a picture of the lodge from afar.
Everybody played
I'll
that
put all
song.
these pictures up, you know.
It looks a lot like Tracy to me. Mill Hollow.
And then we got the trading post.
Yep.
Get your snacks.
You get your, there was a stuffed pug, and it had a necklace that said Mill Hollow.
You can see the parking lot from there where we played Kick the Can.
Yeah. The bridges go over the water, and this is another thing where I think they just didn't want you to get in the water, and they said, like, there's this deadly disease, like, if you touch the water, you would be vomiting.
Cool shirt. Does that shirt bring back some memories?
Yes, it does.
Last thing about Mill Hollow. Do you remember the song?
I don't right now.
Oh, my love is Mill Hollow. Do you remember that song? Come on, seriously?
I really don't.
We all had to sing it around the campfire. I don't remember much more about the song because as I was looking through so this was a lot of the pictures I got was from the Facebook page. A lot of people, that was like their caption. Nate never got a chance.
You guys are going to harmonize and...
I was really hoping that was what was going to happen, but...
Do it again.
No.
It sounds like we didn't start the fire. Oh, my love is Mill Hollow.
Somebody wrote it one time and it just stuck, and they all just keep singing it over and over again. But yeah, if you look through the comments, people are very fond of this song.
It's not as good as Utah, blessed from on high.
On the 25th, playing pickleball again. Wow. my friend's like, oh, it's basically the 24th of July. We need a Utah song. And I started singing that song. He's like, what are you singing? I'm like, you're kidding me, right? So I had to send it to him. Because he's like, he said he wanted to play like American music. And I'm like, well, it's Utah's Day, not America.
You should have put on the Light the Fire Within album.
Yeah.
I love it. I have 2 of those. I'm saving those to sell on eBay one day for pretty price, yeah.
Sure, we'll go for a pretty price.
I almost drove up to Mahalo today because...
That's a long drive.
That's why I didn't.
What, 90 minutes?
Yeah. It's about an hour and a half.
That's 90 minutes.
No, it's like 87 minutes.
It's all relative.
It's a 6:45.
90 minutes sounds longer to me than an hour and a half.
Nope, about an hour and a half.
I was just trying to remember visualizing as I looked on Google Maps and how long it said. I'm like, that's too long. Too long to just get a picture and say I went there.
With $5 a gallon of gas.
Yeah.
It's an expensive trip, too.
Whoa, it's $4.87.
I rounded up.
Well, I put my gas in when it was higher, so it really does cost more.
Yeah, it's average.
Do you remember, like, the last 2 miles maybe was on rocks? Mm-mm. So the bus is just going over rocks, and we would all 3 years, some kid would start going, ah, and it sounded like a bus of...
It was you, wasn't it?
Sheep, like, ah. Yeah, so... I mean, we were excited. We were excited to get there. It was an exciting time.
This is kind of a tangent, but did they invite us to wear scout shirts or bring scout shirts to Mahalo to participate in the flag ceremony?
That sounds really familiar. I never did.
I don't think I did either.
Do you remember doing the flag ceremony and the whole time everybody would be like, shh, 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 and shush familiar. Everybody up? And one year... kids started freaking out, and everybody's like, shh, and a kid had a seizure. And that's what somebody was like, oh my gosh, and everybody looked because you're supposed to be silent.
Right.
And this kid, like, walked up. He was having a seizure, and one of the counselors came and, like, swooped him, like, grabbed his, like, under his knees and picked him up and ran off with him.
Oh, man.
So that was exciting.
Those are our memories. Those are memories of Mahalo, which really pale in comparison to... I think the most exciting part about our discussion today. Matt came to us with this bestseller that we all read over the course of the last couple of days. So Matt, tell us about this book you have.
Yeah, so earlier I mentioned going on a long hike, and then you go towards Skyline Ridge. You go down past, it's called Lightning Tree, and it was struck by lightning, and we stopped there one year, and my teacher... told us about a book that was written about Mill Hollow, and that they described vividly the lightning tree, and there was a dead body in the lightning tree. So she told us this story and said it was at the library. School year starts, and I look in our library, and I find the book, Murder at Mill Hollow. And I'm like, this is so cool. I'm going to read about the camp I go to. So I remember taking it home and actually... rereading it because I found it online. I only found one copy. It's pretty hard to find. But rereading it, I actually remembered quite a bit of it. there were a few things that like mixed up in my mind, but I remember that there was snow, and I remember that they rode in on snowmobiles, and that there were terrorists at this camp. And I remember even reading it as a kid, being like, I can't believe this book's in our library about a camp that we go to. So yeah, I pitched the idea to Brandon that I sent him a screenshot and told him I'm going to buy this book, and he encouraged me to, and I bought it, and I read it, and I gave it to Brandon. Brandon read it, gave it to Nate. Nate read it. Nate gave it to Becky, and she almost finished it.
You need to borrow it for another night so she can finish it?
No. She did not want to finish it, so.
I want to hear your response before.
My
I
response?
want to hear how you felt about this book.
What was the movie we just watched?
Ephraim's Rescue?
Yeah, I'd rather watch that 3 more times than read this book again. I think it was like the first 2 chapters, I was like, what the Hannah Montana? I don't know what the heck's going on. Like, he's all over the place with his writing. Like
is this real? Like,
not even that.
Not that it's a real true
that.
story, but
not
like, is this a real book?
Not the true story, not the story aspect, just the way he writes.
Right.
Like, he's just so all over the place. One paragraph would have like 3 different subjects or 3 different thoughts in it. I'm like, what is he talking about? Who is he talking about? What's going on? And then all of a sudden he would start being very descriptive about the trees and the birds, but then he would be very descriptive about what's going on in the story.
The most important parts.
And something very interesting that my wife brought up is that it takes till I think chapter 3 or 4 till you find out what the main character's name is, which is very odd for any story or book. So it really felt like some kid maybe in 6th grade or 7th grade got assigned to write a short story, and this is what we got. So it's not horrible, but it's also very amateur. Very, very amateur.
A lot of the imagery and examples that are given are very funny.
And I told my wife last night too, I'm like, I feel like he has a good storyboard. If you had like an outline, this is what I want the story to do. So the story, like the ideas, good. The writing, horrible. Like, so many times in the book, I'm like, am I just not paying attention to the book? Or am I like, and I go back and reread it. Nope, I read it. I just have no idea what he's talking about. So, like, I understood the story, but just like when he's trying to explain stuff, you're like, who's this? He just jumps around way too much. So, anyways, did you guys have that same feeling or?
I think I enjoyed it from the nostalgia point of view of like, oh, it's describing this one small detail when it was like, don't run across the grass. I'm like, that was a huge deal.
Oh, yeah, the grass.
And I totally forgot about that, but that was
too.
a big deal. You could not run across the grass.
That's the good thing, too, is for me, it brought back things I didn't even remember.
What I also thought it could have been is some kid was really ticked off that his parents went to London without him.
So that part's true.
So he wrote this book at the camp, and then, because spoiler alert, at the end, he goes to London, right? Because he's a hero. Kind of like when the kid's like saying, when I get out of this house, I'm going to be, you know what I mean, a millionaire or whatever, and I'm going to do whatever I want to do. So that's what.
Book.
So it felt like he was like getting back at his parents. Like, that's why he wrote the book? Like, he did it while he was at camp? And so, anyways, but yeah. Like, my wife reads like a couple books.
She reads the big boys.
She reads a couple books a week, at least. And so she's really good at writing, editing, and all that stuff. Me, not so much. Me no good at English.
But you could have wrote a better book.
But she's just like, this is horrible. This is not. Because they kind of brag about like how talented this. Sorry if this kid's listening to it.
I think he's an attorney now from the research I did on him.
Really? So he can't be. He's got to be closer to my age, if anything, right? Because this book came out in 97.
I mean, you can see
he's got to be older than you, and he's got to be at least my age or a little bit younger.
Yeah. I don't know if he has other books. Like, I found a person with his name that had other books, and it could have been the same guy, but I didn't look as much into it. But I did find an attorney with that name, and it kind of linked them together. So,
well,
he's done pretty well for himself.
That little
if that's the case.
Snippet at the end of the book where it talks about the kid and how it came to be, they make it sound like he was some prodigy. Like, he's not. He's like, seriously, it looks like a kid that wrote a pretty decent book in elementary school.
Who also had help from an adult who couldn't spruce it up a little bit.
Right. I mean, that's, I don't know.
Too scared.
I do think I started looking at it differently throughout the book. that it was a kid, more a kid that wrote it than an adult. Because
Absolutely.
An adult could have written this book and signed off on it.
I could have. this is what you get if I edit your book.
Yeah.
But if
does a comma go here? Sure. Throw one in.
The target audience were kids probably going to this camp.
Right.
So
Granite School District kids. She wasn't like the rich kids anyway.
No, there's no rich kids. Maybe that's exactly what they wanted.
There's no rich kids that go to Granite School?
Nope.
It's cool that there's a book about it still, right? Because it's... I mean, I think my parents went to Mill Hollow when they were kids. I don't know if your parents went, but
No.
a lot of people in the valley connect to it. But all that, I don't think it justified this book existing. It's pretty bad.
No. I disagree, guys.
Just because you own the book, are you just mad that
Look,
you
you
paid
spent the
$7?
money, man. Like, it's...
Does it
Some
even,
cost
does
at
it
this
even
point.
say how much it is on the book?
No, it doesn't. I think
Should we give the
This looks like...
credit
Remember,
where credit's due? Who's the author?
do you remember when you... Peggy Barton and John Quinn. What's the name of the guy from Eddie from Stranger Things? Isn't he a Quinn?
Oh, yeah.
Is it Joseph Quinn?
Joseph Quinn.
Yeah. Anyways, that's what my mind went to when I first saw it. Hey, Joe Don, that can't be him. Because he could be the same age.
I love the text, the cover. We'll have to post a picture.
Hold on.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember when you would go to elementary school and they give you the Scholastic catalog?
Yes.
That's what this
Best
looks
time.
like it came from.
Yeah, that's the target audience.
So,
That's the target audience. So, for it being that, I mean...
but he was a genius because we've talked about this before. Why? Why is he a genius? Put murder in your title and people will
Yes.
buy.
People buy. At least we're not lying this time.
It really is Murder at Mill
It's
Hollow.
Murder at Mill Hollow, with these giant eyes on like those.
And the random picture in the middle of the book, too.
Yeah, and it's the same picture. I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so.
it's the same picture. It's really good.
This is so bad.
So the plot,
Okay,
can we just give what the plot is?
Yeah.
All right, so the plot is...
Don't step on the grass.
Don't step on the grass.
And the birds chirp and sing. And we didn't ask you. Is breakfast really that great at Mill Hollow?
I don't remember any of the food being great.
Okay, because he
Yeah, I don't
brags
remember.
about how great the food is.
I mean, it was typical.
It was like cafeteria food. It's the same stuff you
Yeah.
get when you're at
I just couldn't
elementary school.
imagine. Anyways.
I think you could actually get oatmeal, and that was like a treat.
Okay.
But it was not.
But he
good.
made it sound like he was having gourmet breakfast every morning.
No.
And he liked to talk about eating. Have you noticed he never talks about lunch or dinner? It's always about breakfast he talks about.
I think lunch was like sack lunches.
Yeah, when they have the sack lunch.
And then I don't even remember
The
anything. about dinner.
Twinkies.
I just remember popcorn.
Anyway,
All right.
the plot
Yes.
is...
We should just tell the story so nobody has to go through.
Matt, you should burn this book.
No, they won't find it. That's the thing. You can't find it online.
You buy it from some
I'm
shady
lucky.
Russian website.
I'm lucky I found the one. Yeah, look it up, Nate.
I feel like, because I was trying to see if it was somehow on audio or something. Because
I think
Brandon,
you should do the narration for it.
Well, Brandon had the book. He hadn't finished it yet. So I was like worried, like, man, I don't want to get it and have to. Anyways.
Oh,
read it
yeah.
like
I
an
just
hour.
took pictures of the last 30 pages that I hadn't read before I gave it to you.
So I actually finished it before Brandon. It's a quick read. Like, it's like maybe 40 minutes.
It'd take you longer to drive to Mill Hall than to read the book.
Yeah.
That's true.
I read it with on a Saturday morning while my kids were fighting and stuff, so it took me a little bit longer because I had to keep breaking it up, but yeah, it's quick, and the chapters, it's 66 pages, and there are 17 chapters, I think. Oh, 19.
19 chapters.
19 chapters.
Well, every chapter is like
2
3
pages.
paragraphs.
But yeah, okay. Tell the
Anyways,
story.
the plot. So this boy...
Hold on, too. When I was searching for it online, like, what is this book? There's like nothing about it. Like, there you go,
Uh-huh.
$12.23 on Amazon.
Oh, wow.
Oh, and it's a paperback.
Yeah, that's all I could ever find was a paperback.
Oh, but it had no picture too.
Yeah, there's no picture. There's no, what do you call it? Tease about what it's about or anything. So
Yeah.
I was like, I was wondering, like, is this like based off like a true story or something like that? Until I started reading, I'm like, oh no, there's no way.
Yeah, you had no idea
Hold
what
on.
this was about.
Hold on. This has an extra crease that was not there when I lent it to you guys.
Sorry.
Someone's going to be buying me a new copy.
Well, you found it, so.
There's got to be an autographed copy somewhere.
This kid goes to Mill Hollow summer camp. His cousin's with him.
But why did he have to go?
Because, so, okay, here's the other thing. He makes it seem that he's there for
3 weeks.
Did he say 3 weeks?
Yes.
Or, like, he
But
mentions his cousin was there before
His cousin was
him.
there before him, but he makes it seem like he's there for a month.
For a long time.
That's the whole plan, that he's going to be there
Yeah,
the whole
for a
month
long
that his
time.
parents are gone
To
in London. So the parents of him and his cousin, they're both only children, so they ditch them and go to London while they're stuck at summer.
Well, he makes it sound, too, like he thought he was going to London. And
Yeah,
all of a
because it's
sudden-
his favorite place.
And then all of a sudden, they drop him off at summer camp, right?
Yeah.
It was a science camp.
So that
in the
was
book,
like,
yeah.
it was foreshadowing for what's going to come. It escalates really quick because
It has to. It's only 60 pages.
they find a hand in the lightning tree, a dead hand, because this counselor...
That's where I got confused at the beginning, because he's like talking about someone walking up on a trail. I'm like, who's walking up on a trail? Then he starts
In the
talking.
middle of the night.
Then he starts talking
Oh,
about
yeah.
this tiny guy or something like that, and how, I'm like, what happened to people on the? I'm like, I'm so confused on what's going on. And
Well,
it took
I
me
was
to-
thinking the whole time that it was going to be some kind of ruse. That the guy wasn't really going to be dead. It wasn't really a hand that was sticking on the tree. That's what I kept expecting. But then that didn't happen. The guy really died.
Okay.
He was really in
So
the tree.
that starts the story off, right? He sees somebody out his cabin window
And
walking-
at
Two
nighttime,
lights.
yeah.
Two lights.
at nighttime.
and they're
going
carrying
up.
something, right?
Yeah, they're carrying
Okay.
something up the lightning tree. I text Brandon when I was reading this, and I said, I'm going to describe somebody, and you tell me what their Mill Hollow nickname would be. He's 7 foot tall. I can't remember if it was a weight, but he's got a
Football player guy.
full ride scholarship for football. 7 feet tall. What do you think his name is? And I think it took you 3 guesses, but you got it. It's Tiny, which is like the most predictable
Well,
name.
obviously not, since it took me 3 guesses.
Yeah. You're
the ironic
you're a little
name.
slow.
All right. I guess that would have been my...
There's
Something
a-
along those lines would have been my nickname in Mill Hollow.
How did they take the 7 foot guy out?
So did he see Tiny walking up the hill?
No, he saw
No.
people with lights carrying something big.
And then he assumed it was Tiny?
It wasn't until the next morning when he found
That
Tiny.
Tiny was missing, right?
They knew he was
Yeah.
missing.
They
They
knew
were
he was
that's where
speculating on how big of a trouble he was going to be in because he was missing.
And
He was the example.
and really good at cooking sausage.
Yeah.
He talked about food a lot.
They
It's
talk
weird.
about food a lot. There's a lot of weird focuses in this book. My joke that nobody got at the beginning was, so once they find Tiny, then they let another counselor know. Doesn't seem bothered at all. Merlin was his name, right?
And they start getting shot at.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah!
right? Right.
So-
and
so-
did someone get shot?
No.
Or
what?
get scratched, or he had...
No,
blood
yeah,
on him?
in
In the shoulder, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
the counselor got shot.
shot.
I think it was the Merlin
Well,
guy.
that's what's so funny. They're up investigating. They find Tiny, right?
Kids have been shot at.
And they're being shot at. And then he just doesn't talk about it anymore. They're like, they're not scared. They're just
They're still-
going
This-
on.
They're
This
still
book,
like,
this book should not have gone past chapter 3.
Well, I was so like, wait, did somebody get shot? I'm like, I'm so confused.
And they
right
just
now.
go on and they're doing hikes still.
they're still doing
They're
camp.
still doing camp.
Oh, that's the thing. They just move on.
because all their parents are out of town, so it's not like they can take them home.
It's as if they saw like a squirrel. And like, there's a squirrel. We'll move on. Like somebody got shot.
Somebody's dead.
And somebody
Well,
got
yeah.
shot.
First they found a dead body. That's no big deal. Somebody gets shot, and they just move on and keep going on with their investigation. I'm like,
And the kids are still at camp.
The kids
Just
are
like-
still at camp.
They're
That's the
still doing their
crazy
hikes. They're still doing all their education.
this is why this was in '97 though, right? When he wrote this book. Yeah. If you even like flashed a gun at a camp today, canceled. Right.
Canceled, right.
Done.
This is one of your fellow counselors, and you're just like so
Yeah.
nonchalant about him being dead.
Somebody gets shot, and then somebody comes up with a cot or something, right, to carry him down the mountain. It's like no big deal. Like they're doing.
Happens every
this move-
happens every summer. Kid with a seizure one day.
That damn bear with his.
Oh yeah, that's Smokey. Smokey
Smokey the Bear's got the gun again.
So the kids are gonna figure out what's going
Hold
on.
on. No, then they go to the shrink or the therapist guy.
What do they call him? The
The
manager?
manager.
No,
Not
oh
the
yeah, the
director.
manager.
Because there's a manager, and you find out later there's a director.
Right.
So they go
Makes
to the
sense.
manager.
A doctor, right? A shrink.
Yeah. So they go to
Is
the
that not
shrink.
the same as the manager?
No, they're different.
Oh, okay.
So there's like a manager, director, and then a therapist, a Frood guy, who kept saying, which also was like really weird. That night, he goes to bed, and he sees a shadowy figure outside of his window.
After he told his cousin, right?
Right.
That I will, like,
Yeah,
flash
we'll
my
flash
light
lights at each other.
to signal you if I need your help.
And that shadowy figure ends up being the therapist guy, who's like, "It's okay. We're just patrolling. We're watching to
gonna
make sure
watch
you guys
over
are
you."
okay."
So I don't know if you guys know this, but people are getting shot.
So we're gonna have teens.
There's some bear
watch
out there
over
with a
you.
gun.
Not only that, doesn't he see lights going up the mountain again?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what, and then
While
and then
they're
one of them
patrolling.
run.
and then the guards go after him, right?
Mm-hmm. And they come back down as nothing, or they didn't find anything.
But then his cousin climbs out the window and comes over.
Some of the stuff I don't even know
My
what was
question is,
happening.
why does she have to climb out the window? Can't she just go out the door?
Well, because lights out at 10, you know.
Oh, okay. Don't want to break rules.
The counselor sleeps right next to the door. There's no way you're getting out.
Did they sleep in the dorms with us? I thought they did.
Yeah, well, I don't think they slept though.
Kind of like
They stayed awake all night. I think they slept during the day because your teachers would take care of you during the day. Counselors at night. I think
Really?
the counselors would stay up.
oh, interesting.
Maybe
Anyway.
not. I slept walk, and I was sleepwalking to the bathroom and got woken up by my counselor.
Oh,
And he's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was embarrassed, so I was like, "I gotta go to the bathroom."
so is there 6 of them?
I have no idea how many kids there are.
Don't even know how many kids there are.
But they're going on a hike with a big, large group, right? And then
They break off.
They break off
That's
at one
right.
point.
So Peter, his cousin, the nerd, and a bunch of other kids for some reason. They never get named, never have any dialogue or anything. They just happen to be with them. So they break off when they're going to they go to the Heart Lake, which is a real lake,
Mm-hmm.
a real hike you do. And then they find this cave which has
Because it's raining, right? They're
Right.
trying to get out of and snowing.
It snows.
Snowing.
Uh-oh. It's snow in the summer.
was
In
it
June.
was it
June.
snowing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's...
No, it wasn't snowing at the beginning.
Oh,
When they
it's
go in
raining.
the cave, it's to escape from the rain. When they come out of the cave, then there's snow everywhere.
Yeah, there's snow.
Rain
Okay.
and the lightning. And he even brings up that you're supposed to lay on the ground. I'm
Right.
like, why are we talking about... And then nothing
Oh,
about
yeah,
it after
like,
that.
don't go near the... They tell you, don't go near the tall trees. Lay on the ground, and then it doesn't mention that again.
So then they go in the cave and they find these boxes and they open them up and there's guns and ammo and all these bear furs, which they've decided is the whole reason why there's these people is to get the bear furs.
Yeah, because they did find like a piece of bear fur.
Oh,
with
yeah, the-
Tiny.
Tiny
Oh,
was
Tiny
holding
had
onto
it.
it.
And
Yeah,
so they
that's
figured
right.
that some
It was
bear,
a-
bear
the bear
hunters
skin trade.
were the bad guys shooting at him,
Right.
trying to stop him.
They hear all these voices and they're speaking a different language, right? And they
Hide.
realize they're terrorists.
But they
Because
hide
speak a
underneath the
different
bear
language.
skins.
Yeah. So then they make it out and then it snowed. And then where does it go from there?
They slide down the mountain.
Slide down the mountain. Nerd ruins his shoes.
And they go and talk to the manager.
Oh, that's right. They talk to the manager.
And he's like,
In
well,
on it.
tomorrow, me and you, Peter,
You and just me and you.
me and you,
That's
which
right.
isn't, are going to go hike and find that cave.
That's right. And
And the
he does
therapist
do-
was there when he was telling them this too. And he's like, yeah, that makes
That's a
sense.
great
Just
idea.
the two of you should go up there alone.
Right. And then it goes to the next morning, and he starts going off on breakfast again. And how great but here's the one. Here's my favorite part of the whole story.
Me too.
Are we going to the same spot? Where he just goes off on this big chick,
Tracy.
Tracy. That's what makes me think that he really was at the camp, and he didn't like this Tracy girl, and just brings her up and starts.
It wasn't
Basically-
just like she's just fat. He's like, she's got a serious weight problem.
Yeah, and it's like a whole chapter, right, on Tracy.
Doesn't it like talk about her roles?
Yeah, her roll's coming over. Oh my
Coming
gosh.
over, yeah.
And I've never seen her
Cancel
I've-
this guy.
I've
He's
never-
fat shaming.
I've never seen her not chewing.
She was always chewing. So I don't even know what happens. Does he?
They bump into
Does
each
he
other,
spill
right?
his food on her?
Like they bump in each other, right? And then his food is
Yeah.
spilled all
He
over.
covers her from head to foot, is what he said. And,
Anyways,
and
but I'm
she's
like,
and she falls down. And she's still chewing.
but she has nothing to do with the story. It's like just that's why I think he really did not like Tracy. So he really, or maybe
She was his
Tracy,
bully.
maybe Tracy was like his girlfriend at camp and she dumped him.
Oh,
So he's just
yeah.
trying to get back at her. But
This fatty.
From there, then we find out the manager's in on it.
well, not yet. But
Oh, no, that's like
the
at the
cousin
Oh,
says.
spoiler.
Oh, sorry.
The cousin says you're not going to hike without me.
Yeah, the
And
cousin
then the
does.
counselor says, or the manager
It's
says,
like, you're a girl.
You're a girl. Can you handle that or something like that? Like, sweetheart. Well, if you want to see her mad,
You're gonna see her Darth Vader face.
Darth Vader. That's what he said. Darth Vader.
What? What's a Darth Vader face? He's wearing a mask, and then he explains it's her retainer. So I guess it makes sense.
So they take off, right, to go, the three of them, to go find this
cave.
Which
But they heard an avalanche, which covered the cave.
Right. From earlier there was an avalanche. But so they couldn't find it.
Mm-hmm.
Then all of a sudden, like, is it a boulder or big rock comes
that's
flying
right.
down the mountain
And
to kill them?
the manager assumes that it kills them.
Yeah.
Right? He like leaves.
Because
he just disappears.
He disappears.
They jump out of the way. They jump out of the way.
And
then he's gone.
Yeah.
And he thinks, well, I think we're led to believe that he thinks they were killed.
That's what I would think he was going for.
Yeah.
But maybe the manager was like on the rock, running it down the hill.
It could have made sense in this book.
But yeah. There's a lot of like, what?
So then they head back to the camp. And
this is where it gets fun.
This is the part I remember as a kid reading this book, is that they're looking in the camp and there's a bunch of terrorists with their guns, like holding the whole camp up.
But all the cabins are like lined up with a terrorist guarding each one, right?
Yeah.
And they're all gonna die.
Then they say someone was gagged with.
Oh,
yeah,
the camp director.
The director was gagged.
Yeah, not the manager because he's in on it. As we're gonna find out.
Yeah.
But then
they remember a shed, right?
Is that snowmobile? Right?
Yeah. The snowmobiles.
Yeah.
So they go find
conveniently unlocked.
Why would they? How would they know those snow? If you're not expecting snow in the summer, how would you know those snowmobiles were there? But so anyway, yeah, very convenient. They find these snowmobiles.
Not only is it locked,
and
the
luckily,
key is in ignition.
Luckily, his neighbors had a snowmobile and showed him how to ride them.
That's right.
But they wouldn't let him get one because their neighbor, who had ears on his license plate, said that it would ruin your hearing.
Oh, the doctor.
That's right.
Ear doctor. That's right.
They get the snowmobiles. They move them out far enough so they won't hear it, and then they start them. And they're riding, and he's just driving.
But they're so loud that
he can't hear his sister, or his cousin.
But the terrorists could hear it, right? And that's
right.
how they know they go after
But
him.
she's trying to get his attention, and he's like, "I'm just trying to drive the snowmobile."
That's right.
Where they're going to get help.
They're going to the Rangers.
The Rangers, yep.
And she's trying to get his attention because there's 3 terrorists behind them on snowmobiles as well. That's right.
So that's a good point, Matt, is that how do they know there's a snowmobile in the shed? And how convenient is it that the terrorists also have 3 other snowmobiles ready to go?
They kill one of the terrorists. He runs into a tree.
Runs into
very Star Wars.
Just like the movies, he says.
Just like the movies.
Yeah, he does say that.
He does say that.
And then their snowmobile runs out of gas. And
that
part got a little confusing to me, like when he's describing it. And I'm like, what? All of a sudden they're hiding. And then didn't they go past?
Then they shoot at them.
They're shooting at them again, right?
But that's right.
They're like, okay, we must have got him.
But that could have been the bear with the gun. We don't know.
Right.
Shooting at him. And then he starts talking about like digging out this thing. I had to read that like 3 times to see what he was digging out with a spoon or something.
Oh yeah, wasn't it like a rock?
boulder? Like
yeah.
And then he had
I had no idea what was going on.
Some adrenaline rush like they do when they pick up
a car or swim a mile.
And then he throws the boulder. I'm like, but what was the point of throwing the boulder? To distract where they were hiding? Like, wouldn't that?
I think that's what it was.
That's what it was.
He was distracting them. And then,
wouldn't that also call attention to where you are? But anyways. They go down
the
road.
They find the ranger.
They go down the road. They go down the road.
Right.
Is there more than one ranger in the car? It made it sound like there might have been.
I think there was 2.
2 rangers in the car. But this is what's funny too. They're like, so we're going to go to the ranger station, but no, they drive straight to camp. I'm like, hold on.
I was thinking, wait, are the rangers in on it too?
Exactly.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I'm
like, but there's only 3 pages left, so
that's what I thought too.
End.
Yeah, and so I'm like,
they call the National Guard.
Whoa, no. They go to the camp and go, oh, crap.
You were right. There were terrorists there.
And they turn around. And then
they shoot at them.
They're shooting at the truck. And they have to turn, oh, crap. And they turn around. And then there's no, like, what do you call it? I guess you say climax at that point. It was just like, and then we're in the ranger station. We call the police. And then everything's good.
So this is how I imagine it. Yeah, this is how I imagine it. I imagine a Disney movie where it's showing that. And all of a sudden it's like them not there. And you realize that the whole time they were telling this story while not being there. And like the ending is like, so then we were on national news and my parents in London were seeing me on the news, and then we went to London and we had a fun time.
That's why I think, like, as a kid, like, oh, this is why I got to go to London. Oh, man.
The ending
But
is
the
quick.
manager comes out and he's like pleading for the kids' lives because he's like, okay, I was in on it, just don't kill him or whatever. And they're like, okay,
Yeah,
sure.
because it was money, I think. Like,
Yeah.
Well, the
he
manager...
was making good money.
No, so it turns out that it was
They
like
didn't-
an ex, like, army guy.
Yeah,
that used
that's
to
right.
go to the camp that was...
His
what do you
parents
call it?
also went to
Smuggling.
London
That
and
was-
left him there. Or that's what he speculates.
Yeah, smuggling guns, and that it just didn't defrost in time
Yeah.
to snow to go get them.
So they thought they would be done before the camp.
Yeah, and then they went and bribed the manager to get in on it, and then the
Mhm.
manager was remorseful at the end, right? For
Right.
what he did. Oh, good times. But yeah, just them, like, all of a sudden being on a plane to London, I'm like, oh boy. And he got to go first class too, right? Because
Yeah.
he's a hero.
That really was the book. We just told you the whole story.
And
Like,
it probably took us longer to tell you than it would take to read it.
because we had to go back and think of all the things that didn't make sense.
Yes.
Yeah, to me, the funniest
Maybe we
part
should just
is
read
that-
the last paragraph of the book.
Go for it.
So that's how Catherine and I happened to be flying on a jet toward England, sitting in first class at the airline's insistence, eating our special kids' meals and only half watching the action movie on the screen in front of us. It would take a really good story to compare with our experience in the Unitas. We were finally going to see the Tower of London, where we'd hum with her head tucked underneath her arm. We would go to the Buckingham Palace and see the Queen's guards wearing their tall, black bearskin hats, and we would always remember the handful of black fur in Tiny's hand at the murder at Mill Hollow.
Dun,
The
dun,
end.
dun. Yeah, I mean, it was fun to read because I remembered all those things about Mill Hollow.
Yeah.
But again, after reading that in elementary school, I was like, I can't believe this was in my elementary school library.
That's how scandalous it was.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Scare kids to go to Mill Hollow.
Yeah. So, but it was fun. I mean, it was bad, but it was fun.
It just really makes me want to do a spin-off podcast where we just watch and read. Like, watch bad movies,
review.
read bad books. Just put Nate through pain
Misery.
over and over again.
I guess it was worth it for the laugh.
It's bad, but again, you mentioned it took you 45 minutes to read. It's not like a waste of your time.
And you can put it in your list of books you read.
How do you value your time, Matt?
That could have been a whole pickleball match.
It was worth it.
Like 3.
We had a great laugh about it. It was
did
worth
have
it.
You
I
gotta
had
read the
no
great
idea
book.
that you guys had been there, so that makes more sense why we did it now. Because I was like, why are we doing this? Like, I even told my wife before I left, like, I don't know why we're reading this book or where it came up, but
Now it
it
makes sense.
all came full circle. We're supposed to go to the Unitas this week with the youth.
The cool thing is, you could send your kids now, because it's not limited to the Granite District. Anybody can sign their kids up to go to Mill Hollow.
Or did you say certain age groups, or do you think it's like any age
It
group
is
now?
certain age groups.
The pictures online, it made him see like teenagers, though.
So you said you rode buses up there. So would your parents drop you off at school?
Yeah, you'd meet at like 7:30 at your elementary school, and the bus would take you up
Okay,
there.
so it's not like your parents dropped you off. You had...
My mom, I think my mom's goal for her kids were to always be the coolest kids. I'm not saying I was the coolest. I think that was my mom's goal. So every year she would pack me Child's Play, the candy, not the movie. But the candy. It's full of Tootsie Rolls and Dots. And,
Oh, the
okay.
mix.
Yeah.
yeah. So I would pack that, and I would be the cool kid with the candy. Maybe not the cool kid, but I had the candy, so people would come to me for candy. So yeah, you'd get on the bus and then right up there.
So what it says on the website is, this is, I think, new. So Matt was telling me this earlier, but you can rent out, if you want to take your family to Mill Hollow in the off season, you can rent it out. It's got different sessions throughout this year. So it says June 19th through the 24th, a full week, is Jurassic Park themed.
Whoa.
And then you got the next week, there's a week off, and then it's Bugs Life themed, Star Wars themed, Something Fishy, Captain Planet, Flower Power, and then Mill Hollow Mania. So different camps throughout the year, kind of a Camp Tracy seems like to me, with
Bugs
these
Life.
themes.
Would it be a circus for Bugs Life theme?
I don't know.
That's
But the other thing is, the age range is 7 to 17. So your kids could go. You do have to be 7, and it's got different costs if you want to send them for 5 days.
wow.
It's $600 a camper, 3 days, it's $300 a camper. For me and Matt, we were both in Granite School District, so we had the opportunity to go. You were in Jordan and you didn't. This American Life, a recent episode, was all about camp and camp kids. And I wouldn't put myself into that category. I don't feel like that with Mill Hollow, but I mean, camp is really
You wouldn't cry if you were made a leader?
Well, maybe I would. And it's cool that it's now open to everybody. Is kind of my point, my rant about that. So, send your kids. They can have that fun experience. Hopefully you don't have to deal with terrorists like Peter had to deal with. And have a good time.
So if you need a week away from your kids, send them to camp.
Thanks for reading, you guys.
It was a good book. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for bringing it
That's
to
a
us.
good book. Don't lie.
And join us next week where we review a terrible album that I'm going to force Nate to listen to. Thanks for listening to This Is a Place podcast.
See you next week.